Because despite so much of overwhelming evidence of corruption against so many people out in public domain, there is no chance of anyone going to jail. There is no chance of anyone being punished. You would say that already Kalmadi is in jail, Raja is in jail. They are all in jail only because Supreme Court is monitoring all these investigations. Otherwise, CBI on its own would never have taken any action in any of these cases. All our anti-corruption agencies are compromised. CBI, before filing any FIR, before registering a case, before starting any investigation, any case, has to take permission from the same people who are accused in that case. A government's Lokpal draft, it has such a narrow jurisdiction that it practically does not cover any kind of corruption. I'll give you some examples. There is so much of corruption in panchayats. So much of ghost works are found in panchayats. However, panchayat corruption is out of Lokpal's purview. Narega, there is so much of corruption in Narega. Narega is out of government's Lokpal purview. There is so much of corruption in public distribution system. Many studies show that almost 80% of 30,000 crore subsidy, annual subsidy, is siphoned off. That is also outside government's Lokpal purview. There is medicines in government hospitals are siphoned off. That is also outside the purview of government's Lokpal bill. The roads in cities and villages, they are constructed and they come off within a few days because there is corruption in the roads. That is also outside Lokpal's purview. The municipal corruption, that is also outside government's Lokpal purview. Adarsh housing scam, Commonwealth Games scam, Reddy scam, Reddy Brothers scam, mining scam, Taj Corridor scam, fodder scam, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha scam, cash for vote scam, Yamuna Expressway scam. All this is outside government's Lokpal bill's purview. The Prime Minister is outside government's Lokpal bill's purview. MPs are outside government's Lokpal's bill purview. MLAs are outside government's Lokpal. Sarpanches are outside government's Lokpal. Municipal councillors are outside government's Lokpal. All state government employees all across the country are outside government's Lokpal. All groups B, C and D employees of central government are outside government's Lokpal. What is inside government's Lokpal? As soon as a citizen makes a complaint to the Lokpal, the corrupt officer against whom the complaint has been made has been given an immediate right to go to the court and make a complaint, file a case against the citizen that he has filed a false and a frivolous complaint. And the corrupt officer will be provided free advocate by the government. And if the citizen is not able to prove his complaint, there is minimum 2 years imprisonment against him. But if he proves the complaint that the officer is corrupt, then there's just 6 months of punishment against the corrupt officer. So friends, this Lokpal bill drafted by the government is basically to target the people who are fighting against corruption. It is not meant to target the corrupt and corruption in the government. It is meant to target those people who dare raise their voice against corruption. As soon as you make a complaint to the Lokpal, or as soon as you make a complaint to any anti-corruption agency, immediately you are targeted. You are threatened. You are victimized. In the last 1 year, 13 RTI activists have been murdered all across the country. The people who dared to file an RTI application to get information from the government. In Jan Lokpal bill, we had suggested that the Lokpal should have a duty to provide protection to such people. The government has not accepted that proposal. So there is no protection of whistleblowers. The selection of Lokpal. The government has suggested a 9-member committee, out of which 5 of them will be their own people. So effectively, they will appoint politically loyal and most corrupt people as Lokpals. The removal of Lokpal. We had suggested that any citizen should be able to make a complaint to the Supreme Court seeking removal of the Lokpal if he feels that he has evidence of corruption against a Lokpal member. The government has written in the law that only government can make a complaint to the Supreme Court, not the citizens. So the government in effect has a control over the selection of Lokpal, they have a control over the removal of Lokpal, and they have a control over the budget of Lokpal, and they have control over the functioning of Lokpal. So just like CBI, Lokpal will also be a puppet in the hands of the central government. Should Prime Minister be included in Lokpal? It is being said that Prime Minister sits over very sensitive matters and it would endanger our democracy or it would endanger our country if Prime Minister were brought under the purview of Lokpal. Friends, I dread if tomorrow Madhu Koda becomes the Prime Minister of this country, and it is very likely. In this coalition era, Madhu Koda could very well become the Prime Minister of this country, and the security of this country would be threatened because he will sell the security of the country. Prime Minister is privy to so much of security related information. So in my opinion, Prime Minister is the first person who should be brought under the purview of Lokpal. Secondly, keeping Prime Minister out of Lokpal is unconstitutional, because in our constitution only and only President of India enjoys complete immunity from any kind of investigation. No such immunity has been granted to the Prime Minister. So if Prime Minister is kept out of Lokpal, this law can be easily challenged in the Supreme Court as an unconstitutional law. Should judiciary be brought under Lokpal? The government says that we are bringing a judicial accountability bill. The judicial accountability bill says that if there is an allegation of corruption against a judge, suppose there is an allegation of corruption against a Delhi High Court judge, then 3 judges of Delhi High Court would decide whether to register an FIR against that judge or not. Now the judges with whom you have lunch every day, the judges with whom you sit on the bench every day, those 3 judges committee is supposed to decide whether to file an FIR against their brother judge or not. Is this going to work? Today, the system that exists today is that if any judge indulges in any corruption, you cannot even register an FIR against him till you seek the permission of the Chief Justice of India. And in the last 20 years, there have been so many allegations of corruption against so many judges in the country, but none of the Chief Justices of India gave any permission against any judge. It is only in the last 2 years that permission were given only in 2 cases, in Nirmala Yadav case and in the PF scam case. No other Chief Justice of India, including very honest Chief Justices of India, have given permission to even register an FIR against their brother judges. There is so much of collusion amongst them. All that we have been saying is, rather than the Chief Justice of India giving permission, the permission to register an FIR should be given by a 7-member bench of Lokpal in an open hearing. But again, they have not included that. Judiciary has been kept completely out of Lokpal. And the government asked Anna Hazare that you suggest 5 names to be put on the joint committee. So therefore, Anna Hazare suggested those 5 names who had made the initial draft of the Jan Lokpal bill. And those people were included in the Lokpal committee, joint drafting committee. Now many people are saying that how are you the civil society representatives? You never fought any elections. But we never claimed that we are representatives. We never said that we are representatives. We are very ordinary citizens of this country. We are being looted, we are being robbed. We dared to raise our voice against corruption. Is that a crime? It is the government who invited us to be put on the joint drafting committee. So my request is, those who are saying that why are you representing, we are not representing civil society, please go and ask the government why did the government request Anna Hazare to give those 5 names, and why didn't the government request any other person to give those 5 names. An impression is being given that anything which is not in the control of the government is a parallel government. That is not right. In any democracy, as it was discussed, we have judiciary, We have legislature and we have executive. And executive has all the powers, all the executive powers. It is almost like a superpower. So in order to keep a check on executive, we created several independent bodies. So therefore we created a judiciary to keep a check on arbitrariness, injustice and corruption of the executive. We created judiciary, which is not in the control of the executive. So is judiciary a parallel government? We have CAG, Controller and Auditor General. Is CAG a parallel government? We have NHRC, which is independent of the government. Is NHRC a parallel government? We have Central Vigilance Commission, which is independent of the government. Is CVC a parallel government? We have Central Information Commission, which is independent of the government. Is CIC a parallel government? We have so many other agencies which are completely independent of the government. They are not parallel governments. Likewise, Lokpal will also be independent of the government. How will that become a parallel government? Another word that is being thrown is Lokpal is a Frankenstein monster. It will come and sit on everyone's head. It's not like that. An ordinary income tax officer, Group B officer, an ordinary income tax officer has the power to examine the income tax return of Dr. Manmohan Singh. He can impose taxes on Dr. Manmohan Singh and he can impose a penalty on Dr. Manmohan Singh. An ordinary income tax officer has the power to examine the income tax return of the Chief Justice of India, impose taxes on him, impose penalty on him. An ordinary income tax officer has the power to examine the income tax returns of all the members of parliament, all the ministers, all the officers. Does this mean that income tax officer sits on the heads of everyone? He does not. Investigating officer of Lokpal will only and only investigate the allegations of corruption against any of these authorities. He will not even have the power to impose penalties or impose taxes. Lokpal will have much less powers than an ordinary income tax officer. But they are trying to create an impression that it is a Frankenstein monster, it is a threat to democracy. Lokpal investigating officer will only and only have the powers to receive complaints of corruption against any of these authorities, examine them, investigate them, and take the matter to the court. That's it. Because we wanted to tell the people of this country that inside it was just a one-sided dialogue that was going on. We would keep on pleading and pleading before the ministers on each and every point, and they would just announce the decisions. For instance, should judiciary be included in Lokpal bill? This issue was being discussed. Prashant Bhushan spoke, Shanti Bhushanji spoke, Justice Hegde spoke, I spoke, and very fervently we said that why judiciary needed to be in. And we spoke for almost half an hour and 45 minutes. And at the end of it, Mr. Chidambaram just announced the decision, no, judiciary cannot be in. That's it. There is a direct conflict of interest. The people who are supposed to pass this law, if they passed a strong law, half of them would go to jail. And that is the reason you cannot expect a strong law to be passed by this Parliament of India, which has 4 MPs, serving MPs, sitting in the jail today for under Prevention of Corruption Act. 150 of these MPs have serious criminal charges against them. Can we expect this Parliament of India to pass a strong Lokpal bill? And forget about Lokpal bill. Can we expect this Parliament to even pass any legislation which is in the interest of the public of this country? So therefore there is a serious conflict of interest, and unless all the people of this country take to streets from 16th August, there is no hope. I don't think in post-independence India there is any other law which has been debated so much by the public of this country.